Hey y'all, it's Sabrina, and for this week's video, I'm going to be talking about the pros and the cons for the Americorps NCCC program. Now, I have 7 different topics that I'm going to touch on, and I'm going to explain the pros and the cons side of each of those topics. As always, there are timestamps in the description below, so let's get started. Starting off with the first one, let's talk about traveling. So one of the main reasons a lot of people join this program is because you get to travel all over the United States. The United States, essentially, for this program's purpose, is split up into 4 different regions. You go to one state in one of those regions and you do your training. From there, you get sent to any of those states in that region to do your service projects. This means going to new states and new cities and towns that you've never got to go on otherwise. And sometimes you can even leave your region and cross the country into someone else's region, depending on what help is needed. Not only are you traveling there, but you're living for weeks at a time, sometimes a couple of months, in one specific location around the US. This means that you have plenty of time to see all there is to see while you're living in that city or town. My very first project in Americorps, my team lived in South LA. That means we had 6 weeks to see all LA had to offer. From everything from the Hollywood sign to Hollywood Boulevard to Beverly Hills, we pretty much checked everything off the LA bucket list. A lot of these places you end up living in, you make really great connections with the people and the location itself. So you may end up finding a place that you would love to go back and live in or work in after the program's over. Not only are you exploring the communities that you get to live in, but you get to explore a lot of different places along the way during your trip from your main campus to the place you're going where your project is located. This could mean you get to stop in Chicago, a city you've never been to, and have deep dish pizza on your way to a project. Or maybe you stop at the Redwoods and do a quick hike with the extra time that you have. Personally, I have had the chance to find some of my favorite places in the US, as well as see so many different states and cities and towns that I had never had the chance to explore unless I was in this program. You're also not putting out a ton of money to travel to or live in these places. The program is doing that for you. Now for the con side of traveling. You do not get to pick the places, the cities, the towns that you get to go to. You don't get to say, I really want to go to LA, Chicago, Jackson Hole, and they'll get you there. It's not exactly how the program works. It's almost like picking from a hat. You go where they tell you, you go with your team. If you're somebody who's a city person, make sure you keep in mind that the majority of these projects are going to place you in a rural area. That means far away from the city and not a lot of ton of things to do or see. You have to get used to living in a rural area where the only time you get to go out and do anything is that 30-40 minute car ride to the grocery store to shop for food for your team. Now, while the idea of this program is to put you in different locations so you get to explore other places, there is a possibility that you may go back to the same place. For example, I have had both fellow team leaders and fellow Corps members end up in the same town or just an hour away from the town that they had served in from their last round. Personally, I think this is more of a rare case, but it does happen, especially if you're on a campus that switches up teams. When serving my second year, the region I was in switched up teams halfway through the year. I ended up getting a member of my team who, for our 3rd round, ended up going to the same town as his 1st round, and then for our 4th round, he ended up staying with us only a couple hours away from where his 2nd round took place. So he only got to see 2 or 3 states while in the program. It really is like drawing from a hat. You never know what you're gonna get. Number 2, let's talk about service. So one of the reasons I really always vouch for this program is because of the different diverse service projects that you get to do. You're meeting and learning about organizations and their causes that you may never knew existed, but you really connect with. Maybe one day you're pulling invasive species, the next day you're building a house. You get to participate in different projects that you never thought you would like before, or maybe you get to participate in projects that you thought you were going to love and have a serious passion for, and it's not exactly what you expected, and you find a different passion throughout the program. If you're a team leader, you do get a sway on what type of service projects you do. Sometimes you even get to pick. If you're a Corps member, depending on what region you are in, you may be able to make a list of the different service projects you want to do, and they'll do their best to put you on a team that is going to be doing that type of service work. That leads me into my con side of things, because for the most part, the downside of the service aspect is that you do not get to choose the type of service work you do. So if you were really hoping to work with youth, you may go through the entire program and never once work with kids. Another side of that is that, again, while they try to mix up the different service projects, 3 out of 4 of your rounds, you may be doing just environmental work. That may mean you're pulling invasive species 1 round, your next round, you're making a nursery or a garden, and your 3rd round, you're teaching about trees and plants to school children. While they try to switch it up, you never really know what's gonna happen. And you can't go into this program saying, okay, well, when they give me a list of the service projects I'm gonna do, I'm gonna decide if this program is or is not for me. Because you don't know what project you're gonna be sent on until your current round is almost over. That means if you're building houses during round 1, you only know you're building houses until the end of that round, and then they reveal to you what your next service project is. So you get that information little by little. And again, feeding into the opportunities that you get that you may not be passionate about, there's a lot of work out there that you may be doing saying, why am I doing this? I don't understand why it's helping the community, or I'm really not passionate about this and I really don't think it's that helpful. You get what you get and you just don't get upset. Or you get upset, but you just push your way through it. Last thing in the service sector to really consider is that a lot of organizations that are nonprofit can be very unorganized, or they just may look very unorganized because they're kind of working off what they can get. That may mean used and out-of-date equipment. That may mean they don't have necessarily enough funding for certain projects. So sometimes you may arrive on a project geared and ready to do one thing you're excited about, and you learn that nonprofit, unfortunately, that organization, they can't do what they really wanted you to be here for. This may mean learning to adapt to the different projects that may come up when you are on a current project or before you get to another project. Things change all the time. You have to roll with it in this program. Number 3 is what's provided for you in the program. This program pretty much provides everything for you. And it's really nice because you don't really have to worry about money or means of getting to certain places in order to give back and to serve. They pay for your plane ticket out there and they send you home when it's over. They also provide you with food. Your team gets a budget that the team leader's in charge of, and it takes care of your 3 main meals for the day. Housing's also included in the program, as well as your working uniform, including steel-toe boots. For those odds and ends things like shampoo, conditioner, body wash, deodorant, they also provide you with a living stipend so you can afford those things while on your round. And lastly, once you complete this program, you're granted an education award. This education award can go to past student loans, future education, and a couple other things you can use it for here and there. So what are the cons to what's provided for you? In general, the food budget you get, it's not a big one. With that budget, you and your team have to agree on different meals that are going to be made and different food that the team's going to eat. This is actually a lot harder than you think. And you have to make sure that what you're purchasing is going to be edible for everybody on the team. You can't all just have bologna sandwiches every day for lunch. But this is part of the program. It's how it works. You need to compromise. If there's something you really want when it comes to snacking and extras and you can't afford it for your team, you will have to pay out of pocket for it to supplement your own diet or your own food needs. The living stipend they provide you with, it's not a paycheck. It is a living stipend for you to buy the necessities that you need. This living stipend is very modest. That means it's not a lot of money. So a con is that it's very hard to save up while in this program. In regards to transportation, part of the pros is that you do get a team van that you drive around in. You don't have to worry about paying for gas or anything like that. But a con with that is that it is the team's van. It is the only way the team can get to and from their project or get around. And the rules of the program are that you need to use that van for necessities of the program itself. That means getting to and from work. That means getting to and from PT or the gas station or groceries, but you are allowed to use it for team recreation. You need to get your team leader's permission to use it, and you can't drive it alone. Only the team leaders are allowed to drive the vehicle alone, so you always have to have another person with you. There are places the van can and cannot go or park in front of according to the rules of the program. So you need to make sure you're following them. You need to learn that it's a community vehicle and it needs to be shared. It's not your own personal vehicle, but that is the team's vehicle. It's the only form of transportation that everybody has. Number 4 we're going to talk about is housing. So I already mentioned that housing is provided for you. And one cool thing about this program is you live everywhere. And I don't mean location, but your actual housing. I've lived in a high school where we slept in the classrooms and the locker room was our bathroom, and the entire gym was where we did PT. I lived in a ranch out in Wyoming where the Teton Mountains were essentially our backyard and our next door neighbors were horses. You live in apartments, houses, golf courses, you name it, you get the chance to do it. And after being in this program, you really can say that you are comfortable and you can deal with living and sleeping anywhere. The con to this would be you're living and sleeping anywhere. This means regardless if you're someone who likes to camp, you may be living in a tent for 8 weeks out in the wilderness, and you may have to drive into town to go to the local YMCA for your team to shower every couple of days. The housing itself depends on what the organization that you are serving with can provide for your team. And as I mentioned before, these are nonprofits that you're working with. So for the most part, the housing that they're getting, they're doing their best to pay for, or someone's loaned it to them, or they made a deal with someone in the community for you to be able to use it. So no, they're not going to be the most ideal places, and a lot of you are going to have to get comfortable with that and learn to live with it. Maybe you're about to go on around and you think you're going to be living in these amazing apartments. Everyone's going to get their own room. It's going to be super awesome. Then you show up there and it turns out that housing fell through, and now you guys are going to be living in a community center with only a little bit of room for everyone to spread out. Your rooming situation may be one giant room where your team splits up where their cots are and puts a divider down the wall. You guys may be a team of 8 or 10 living in one small house and have one bathroom. You may have to come up with a bathroom schedule. Maybe you're not able to do laundry unless it's every 2 weeks. It constantly changes, and privacy can be very hard to come by when you're living with a team in a small living space. Number 5, let's talk about the different experiences and the skills that you get in this program. So right off the bat, I already touched on it earlier, the places you get to go, the communities you live with, the people you meet, those experiences are amazing. And you may have other little ones along the way. Some of my favorite experiences were laying under the stars in Badlands National Park with my team, or hiking through the sequoia trees in California with my fellow team leaders. There are some amazing things you get to do, and you're making experiences that you're not going to soon forget. Besides experiences, there are also tangible skills that you're going to be able to learn and pick up. This may mean working with tools that you never had before, or expanding your knowledge on how to do roofing, laying concrete, working with animals, information about the environment. A lot of different skills that you can add to your resume and build upon as your time in the program and after the program goes on. Now, a con to those skills may be that you were really excited to pick up some certain skills, and unfortunately you were put on a project where you don't get to do that. A lot of the time, it's going to be up to you to advocate for yourself in order to learn and develop those skills. Your team leader do the best they can for you, but they're not going to know what you need or what you want to do unless you are able to use your voice to tell them. Say, hey, I really want a chance to be on this project or use this tool for this day. I haven't got a chance to yet, or I really want to develop my skills. And this may sound silly, but it really can be difficult for some people to kind of step up and speak their voice because they don't want to take away skills and experiences from other people. When it comes to experiences, the same thing kind of takes effect in that you're not always just going to have experiences handed to you. Maybe you're on a team that's more laid back and the majority of them rather play cards or watch TV, but you're someone who wants to explore. Step up and say, hey guys, why don't we go on an adventure? Let's go see Yosemite or Niagara Falls. In turn, there may be someone on your team that's like that, and you're someone that is quieter, you value your alone time. If you want to hang back in housing and just be by yourself, you can do that. That's totally up to you. But don't expect to walk away with tons of cool experiences and all these different opportunities that you had when you were not actively searching for them. And to wrap up this whole experience and skill section, there are going to be experiences in this program that are not always fun. This is an entire year of your life. You're going to have challenges thrown your way, and you're going to have to deal with conflicts and have hard conversations that you may feel at the time that you just didn't sign up for when joining this program. The bad days go away, you'll make it through it. For every bad day, you're going to have several good ones. Number 6, let's talk about your team. So if you didn't catch on yet, NCCC is a team-based experience. You do everything with your team. I've said it in all my other videos. You're cooking with your team, you're traveling with them, working with them, meetings with them, PT with them. Most of the time you are with your team. Now this can be a great thing. You are meeting and learning from individuals who live all over the USA. That means they're coming to your team with different experiences, different upbringings. Some of them just right out of high school, some of them right out of college, some of them took gap years. There are so many different people with so many different experiences that you can learn from, and you may just learn what you want to do after your program from their experiences that they get to share with you. You can learn new languages, you can learn new music that you haven't heard before, movie genres that maybe you didn't think you would like, but you're really into because your team opens up your eyes to it. Maybe you learn new recipes, or maybe you learn how to cook for the first time. And all of the skills and past experience that you have, you're also bringing to the table in order to share with them. What's also nice about working and living with a team is there's less time to get bored when you have people to do stuff with. So if you're bored and you want something to do, odds are there's always someone you can find to watch a movie with, play a card game with, or go on an adventure with. When you finish this program, you're going to look back and you're going to have so many experiences that you have shared with your team. So many great memories that you can look back on, or challenging times that you've learned from with the help of your team, or maybe even that you've learned from your team. When a lot of people graduate this program, they still stay in contact with their fellow core members or team leaders. There's several people from my first and second year that I still avidly talk to 2 or 3 years later. On the con side, to be completely blunt, you're not going to love everyone on your team. It's just how it is. It's part of life. Everybody you meet in life, you're not going to hit it off with them right away, and you may have a lot of conflicts. You may challenge each other a lot, and you may just not get along that well. One thing that can be hard is because people are coming from different backgrounds and experiences, they have different values and different morals that most likely won't match your own, or at least won't match your own to a T. They have a different idea of what work ethic is. Everyone has a different idea of what professionalism is, how to act in certain situations, and it can be hard to navigate a lot of situations because everybody has different ideas on how to take care of certain issues, or what even is an issue and what isn't to them. You're probably going to have a lot of conversations conversations that you're not comfortable having. But I'm going to encourage you to have those conversations, because the longer you put something off, the harder it is to resolve once the problem's been happening for such a long period of time. If your team gets along great, that's fantastic. But in any situation, when you're spending long periods of time with people, as time goes on, it's the little things that start to frustrate you. By round 2 or 3, the way someone cooks a certain meal, or how they're always 3 minutes late in the morning to get to work, this stuff starts to get on your nerve. And again, the longer you put it off, the more it's going to build up. So definitely find a healthy way to converse, talk out your issues in order to fix them or to resolve whatever problems are coming your way between you and a specific member on your team, or that the team's doing as a whole. And also know you don't have to be best friends with everyone in order to be civil and professional and respectful when working with them or spending time around them. Number 7, and last on my list, is the requirements and the expectations of the program itself. Now, if you watch any of my other NCCC videos, you know I try to drive this point home, but the program itself, it expects a lot more than what it looks like on their website or what it looks like written down on paper. I am going to put a disclaimer in this section, because while there are only 4 different campuses, and for the most part they have the same rules, they definitely have different requirements from campus to campus. For example, when I was in Pacific region, they preferred you to do a resume, but you didn't have to do one in order to graduate. However, when I was in North Central region, they told us that we needed to complete a resume before we were able to graduate. So things can vary from campus to campus. Now, a pro of all of these expectations and requirements is that it really does set you up pretty nicely once you've graduated the program. A lot of the requirements allow you to take leadership positions, build upon your leadership skills, and allow you to learn or build upon tangible and intangible skills that you can take later with you once your year in NCCC is done. Some of the requirements can also open up some really fun opportunities for you. You also, as a core member, need to complete 80 ISP hours, which is Independent Service Project hours. And basically what that means is, outside of your day-to-day work on your weekends or time off, you have to work with different organizations and nonprofits to accumulate more hours, which does seem like a lot, but you can get some really cool experiences here. You can work at animal shelters. My team did a lot of fun runs that were really cool. We participated in different activities and events that we'd never be able to before, like concerts or helping run the dog sled races. With ISPs, you not only get to participate in these fun activities, but you get a chance to try different service areas that you might not have had a chance to do if you did not do those extra hours, because you weren't, like we talked about earlier, given the opportunity to complete the specific service you were looking to complete while in this program. So if you don't get a chance to work with Habitat through your 4 Americorps rounds, then you can do an ISP with a Habitat and get that experience that way. Obviously, on the con side of this is when you go into this program expecting one thing and a lot of requirements and regulations are thrown at you that you weren't expecting, it can definitely be overwhelming, and for a lot of people it can be frustrating. You may not expect that besides your regular 9-to-5 workday and your PTs, you also have time that you need to dedicate to team meetings and extra leadership roles that you need to take on when you're on a team. And these leadership roles also involve paperwork, sometimes event planning depending on which ones, setting up different community activities. There's a long list of different things that you need to do, and you do have to take on these roles. Now, one thing that can be really overwhelming is this program has a lot more rules and guidelines than you expect. If you're somebody who is used to living the life the way you want, you follow your own rules, this can be really hard, because the rules they have in this program are everything from how you can act in public while you're in your community, to the different uniform requirements that you have to have and wear your uniform a certain way, to how your professional attitude needs to be, etc., etc. When you join this program, you're saying, yes, I will follow your rules in order to participate in this program. This also means the rules that the team leader sets for the team. That may mean on some projects, depending on what the area is like, you may have a curfew that you have to be at housing by. Some of these things can be really frustrating if you're not expecting it. And depending on what campus you're at, depends on how serious they take these rules. For example, when I was in the Pacific region, we weren't allowed to wear NCCC shirts outside of uniform. However, when I went to the North Central region, it was really strange to see a lot of people using their NCCC shirts during PT, because I remember specifically a few core members getting in trouble for doing that exact same thing. So the rules can kind of vary from campus to campus, which can be frustrating. I'm also going to throw in, if you're going to be a team leader specifically, there are a lot more things that you have to do than you're expecting. You have a lot more paperwork, a lot more responsibility, and a lot more working hours than you're expecting. And since you're the supervisor and the boss of the team, just be ready to do a lot more than you were originally expecting to do. So that wraps up my video for this week. Hopefully I was able to dive into these different topics and kind of help you separate the pros from the cons and prepare you for this program. If you're someone who's gone through the program before and you agree or disagree with anything I said, please put it down in the comments below. If you have your own stories or anything to add, please head down to the comments as well. Until next time, I hope this helps.